Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of Here to See the Shelburne, episode 24 of season 2. We have a special guest this week who will introduce in a minute. Apologies. But joining me first, I'm your host, Nevin. But joining me, as always, we have Collie Condon. Collie, how are you?
Hey, Nev. I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Pretty good. To help us this week, Collie, though, to preview a massive cup week for men and the women particularly, is friend of the show, Seana Cooke. Seana, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. It was a very kind intro. Thanks very
Hey,
much.
Shauna.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Hi,
Yeah,
Collie.
it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. So, look, there's a bit to cover this week on this lovely mid-July evening that we have. New manager gossip. We'll find out our European opponents later on this week and the cup previews that I mentioned. But, Shauna, what I think we have to start with is yesterday's 3-0 win at home to Waterford and the Holly Harcourt show. Unbelievable. What did you make of her and that win? It was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, I think it was a hat-trick within 27 minutes. Which,
Ridiculous, yeah.
yeah, which makes it even more special. And I think she hit the crossbar in the second half as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, a very, very good player. Not just for Shelburne, but for the league. And I think for me, like, I don't want to put any pressure on her, but like, when I'm watching her, I definitely would say she's probably the closest thing to like a Katie McCabe, to kind of be playing at the moment or in recent years.
Well, okay.
Which is, yeah, it's great. It's great to see, but I think credit has to go to Sean Russell for obviously trusting her, especially in the fact that the season has come with a bit of pressure in itself and not having a striker.
Yeah, I think Dunny was doing the commentary on the game yesterday, and he made a good point about Sean Russell kind of easing her in. It would have been easy to just throw her in and say, "There, we need you to lead us." We obviously have Bree Severns and all that, but he kind of did a good job in that respect. She's just come on a few minutes now and then, and got a start yesterday, so it was good to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was excellent, and it was funny because I think the second goal, the one that Jess Gargan crosses in, it's kind of reminiscent of the men's goal from the Dundalk game. Where Freitas kind of chests it and puts it across the box
Yeah,
for Harry Wood, and I think Maeve and Tally are almost like kind of forming the same little kind of duo that we see with the men's team, and I just thought that was a really interesting goal. Credit to her, she just seems to pop up in the right place. But the work she does to put herself in those positions is so good for such a young player.
absolutely. And the third goal as well, to jump on that kind of spill from the keeper, who
Yeah.
obviously won't be happy with how she spilled it, but Holly was there straight away. Collie, I think you said it last week about us making calls on this show and having the backtrack on it. So I stuck the game on yesterday and I saw Harcourt was starting and immediately jotted down, she'll play this game, and it's possibly a case of Severns or D'Amico for next week for the Cup. And then I ripped that up after 28 minutes. She had the hat-trick. It was pretty incredible, wasn't it? I mean, I know, like, does she have to start now next week after that? Like, Severns didn't even come on in the game, strangely enough. But I suppose, is it Harcourt's final to start?
That's a hard question because if you remember, there was a hat-trick for Severns the week before as well, and it was in a very short space of time. So we've had two strikers score two hat-tricks in no time at all, which I never witnessed that before from a team, to be quite honest. So that is phenomenal. I do think that Waterford are at a higher standard than Bray at this particular moment in time. So it does give it a little bit more gravitas to that particular hat-trick from Holly Harcourt. And also the fact that she is so young, so exciting, and like I know I said it a few weeks ago, we might look at dedicating shows to Harry Wood, but it's going the same way now with Holly Harcourt, that like just every time she graces a pitch, she's the talking point the next time we come on here and we're talking about her. She did hit the crossbar again, as was said, and like Shels could have had a number of goals. Her movement around the pitch was amazing. I had down that even for the goal where she ran in, it was the third goal. I'm mixing up the goals, but she there was still a lot of work to do there, but she's getting herself into that position to score it. I know we'll preview the Galway game in the final in a little while, but to answer your question, I think Sean Russell has that wonderful problem of a headache now on who to select, and it's in a few positions on the pitch because there was a few players dropped, or maybe they were rested. Dropped is a harsh word to use, but there was a number of changes this week from the match against Athlone, and I think a number of players stepped up, and you could see a number of players that would be able to slot in now for the final, and you wouldn't begrudge any of them a selection. That's the way I look at it, to answer your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm a little curious. We kind of said it during the week as well on the last show. Does anyone know why Severance didn't start or sorry, even come on, I beg your pardon, in the game? Be interesting to see if she does start. Did she carry in a knock or anything? Because she got that hat trick, like you said, Collie. Sean, I don't know if you know, but she's a fantastic player, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, I have no insight into why she didn't start. I mean, she's played a lot of football. There's a couple of players out there, like the likes of Becky Watkins as well, has up until now have played an awful lot of football. So it could be a case of Sean just maybe resting her, but as well, he's probably trying to kind of also drive that competitiveness. When you don't have the luxury of bringing players in, or maybe things aren't going the way you had planned, which they obviously aren't. It's funny to say that as if we're talking here about two players that scored hat tricks, but in terms of like when we look at last season, there was goals every single week. The likes of Mackenzie, I just think that for Sean, he's probably maybe trying to just kind of ignite that bit of competitiveness and competition. With the likes of North American players, like they're always hungry, they're very athletic. So it could have just been a case of Sean just kind of maybe resting her and trying to get that little bit of hunger and competitiveness back into her again now, and going into this week, that's what you want.
Yeah, maybe, absolutely. Like, I mean, since you're saying that, we might as well do a bit of a mid-season review, because there's a lot of these players getting minutes and all. We've had 11 games, 6 wins, 4 draws, 1 defeat. I suppose the draws have cost us. Sean, I'll stay with you, actually. I think of that one against Sligo recently where they scored an absolute worldie. But look, 4 points off the top. You might have seen, actually, Galway drop points today against Rovers. So it's a competitive enough league. Do you see, has there been any noticeable changes to style, new tactical ideas and coaching methods coming under Sean Russell this season? New manager that came in, for those that aren't aware. Do you see anything new in that sense?
Yeah, I definitely do. Like from watching the game yesterday, as Waterford are a young team, and they play quite compact and keep their positions quite well. Gary Hunt has done a really good job there with coaching the players, and you can see even when they play against other teams, like they are difficult to score against at times. And I think with Sean, like you could see, with the way the girls are playing, like they're finding triangles really well. He's encouraging them constantly to play out of trouble, from the back. Like there was one in the second half where Nia Hannon, I think there's a player closing her down, and she kind of like rolls the ball and then plays one over the top to Ali. Yeah. And like it's just kind of that comes from a manager and coaches encouraging you constantly in training to kind of think of ideas, to be creative on the ball. And I just thought that really showed in the game yesterday. The amount of times it moved from one side of the pitch to the other really well. Like even Avian Clancy, like she's just constantly looking for really clever pockets of space. And I do think, look, with all the change that happened coming into this season, and Sean was within every right as a new manager coming in to pick the squad he wanted. And like, the thing is that you can't have a squad of young players and a squad of legends. It's very hard to manage that, and that there's always going to be casualties. But it's going to take him time to really embed his own ideas in. But I think in especially the past couple of weeks, we've started to see that, and I think the football is very exciting. And I do think it's a pity we missed out on a striker like Stevens from Sligo. But I definitely think if you can get one more piece of the puzzle, like I can see them being very unbeatable moving forward.
Probably is just that other piece. Collie, that Sean actually said something on the Sean. I don't know if you remember saying this on the last episode you're on at the end of last season, that the Arsenal way and having a way of playing. Collie, do you think that the girls have a way of playing that we're always giving out about with the men, with the way they were changing things around? These girls kind of have it nailed, and probably just one or two players off maybe being top of the league, or one or two chances off being top of the league. Like, they're not a million miles off, aren't they? Not, and they're
No,
playing well.
they drew it at loan last week. I think they had moments where they could have lost that game, but as we said, Sanchez kept them in it, and that is, I think, where it's signings like that are going to get us to where we want to be in the league. But like, I was going to say, Alex Kavanagh had a great game. I thought she was brilliant in the middle of the park yesterday, doing simple things. Definitely. And then lovely crossfield passes that facilitated Watkins and Walmer to do what they were doing while switching from side to side. And it was really exciting, as Sean is saying. It was really exciting. I just loved watching it. And it's how football should be played. And then she should have had a goal herself. But then she was taken off. And I was like, she's only just growing into the game and she's been taken off. But McKinley came in and slotted right in there and was doing the exact same sort of stuff. And I was like, we don't have to worry about a player being taken off if someone's going to come in and do the business that way. And I thought McKinley had a great game when she came on. And she's really not been a feature of this team yet. She's been in the development side. So, like, the future is bright. Maybe at the start of the season, we were panicking a little bit going, it's not happening. But as you saw today, as you said, with the 3-3 draw, Galway were 3-0 up at one stage, and looked to be cruising. Now I was watching the Dubs game, but I was keeping an eye on it, and looked to be cruising. And then all of a sudden it's 3-3, and you're going, "What is happening?" We've not seen Galway do that. We've kept in tow with Athlone, so maybe, as Andy was saying on the podcast the last day, there is still a lot to play for, and maybe I'm becoming a little bit more like Andy, with a glass half full kind of guy. It could be the sunshine affecting me too. I don't know.
I'd love to hear it, Collie. I hope so. No, I mean, you say one thing there about the future, Collie and Seana.
Sorry, just on that, the future, before you ask
go
Seana,
ahead. Yeah.
Ask her. Dunny said something in commentary about Noel Murray having 9 years at Shels or whatever. And then he said, like, if we got something like that out of Harcourt, it'd be fantastic. The way she's playing, I don't think we'll have her for that long. She'll be gone. But if we were to have her for 9 years, 9 seasons, she'd still only be 25. That's how young we're talking here. It's phenomenal. It's unreal. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No, because I mean that kind of leads on to the question I was going to say, because Sean brought in the likes of Maya, who's been incredible. Best goalkeeper in the league, I think, and Bree up top, who we've mentioned. But Sean, as an ex-defender, would you have any concerns about a successor for Pearl when she does eventually hang up the boots? Again, I think you might have mentioned it on the end of season episode last year about centre-back partnerships. She has a great one with Maggie Pearce at the moment. I think that's good. And Nia Hannon, who can play centre-half, we know, had a good game yesterday. Do you think we're okay in that department, or is anywhere else you'd be worried about on the team, as well as we're playing any youth coming through?
Yeah, I think centre half is a bit more of a difficult one, because there's obviously an element there. It's like a goalkeeper. Like, your mistakes are often a lot grander than maybe other positions on the pitch. And I think playing centre half, like we even saw when Jessie Stapleton came in to Shels, like she had that maturity that you could put her in as a centre half. And Jessie was like that from the time she was 13 or 14. But there's not an awful lot of players that can really just go into a senior team at a young age and kind of, I suppose, not only fill Pearl Flattery's boots, but be able to be a leader amongst women for a club like Shels. I think Nia Hannon definitely has the quality in the in her football ability. She's obviously had a couple of niggles that have kind of caused her to maybe not play as much as she maybe would have liked to or has liked to play. But I definitely think there's an opportunity there for her. It'll definitely be all about how much time she gets this season. Like yesterday, I thought she was very good, probably one of the best players on the pitch. Her distribution, she's calm on the ball. For me, she's a Shels defender. Like a Shels defender can play football. It's not just about making the slide tackles or the headers. It's about being able to play out from the back, and that's what she wants to do. But filling Pearl Slattery's boots that's pretty big. And I think it's important to manage expectations and say there'll never be another Pearl Slattery. And to take that pressure off whoever is stepping into that role, that will be a new era when that player comes along.
That was kind of what I was going to leave with next, because Seana, you were centre half, and how would you have nurtured a young defender that was coming in when you were first choice at Shels? Did any young people come along, or anyone you had to put an arm around the shoulder or anything like that and show them the way?
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to name names, just how you give us a guideline,
Yeah, no, look, I think for me, like, coming towards the end of my career, like, I definitely felt a little bit guilty as well about, I was obviously playing, and then you have these young players, like, I was at the stage in my career where I had won everything here in Ireland, and I wasn't interested anymore in call-ups. And then you had this, you've got these young players who are turning up full of enthusiasm and have their whole careers ahead of them and are just dying to get a phone call from Ireland that just want to play. So it's just about, I think, helping them kind of manage that enthusiasm and that eagerness. I think there was a couple of players I was competing with for right back. But like I would have played behind the likes of Leanne Kernan, Izzy Atkinson. But like my thing to them was the exact same when I Pearl is with the younger girls. Like, you don't make mistakes. Like, we're here, like, this is a team sport. I remember Leanne Kernan missing a penalty, and the first thing we all done was congratulate her for taking it. Nobody mentioned the miss. So it's just about putting them in positions, to let them know that, like, it doesn't matter what happens once you're trying and you're turning up. And then it's just about kind of, like Izzy Atkinson, for example, would have stayed to do a lot of one-on-one with her at the end of training, just to kind of encourage her like that to go at player, like, and she'd ask me questions like, as a fullback, do you prefer a player cutting inside or outside? And just giving little players tips about, like how you can have an edge even before you step out onto the pitch. So yeah, it's just trying to kind of be there for them and answer their questions and allow them to kind of enjoy football. Like, as a senior player, it's not that you're not enjoying it, but your job is to take the pressure off the younger players, and let them have their moment. So that's what I saw my role as I was getting a bit older.
Yeah, I love it. And I love what you say about defenders. As a man who was a centre half growing up, I always remember marking Christy Fagan when he played for Home Farm, and he ran me around the pitch and I did well on him. Then he scores a goal and everyone gives out about the goal he scored, and you're like, right, you can't tell the strikers that, you're doing your best on them. But look, guys, we'll move on to the Galway game, because I do recall we played Galway only back in mid-May. I suppose getting to this final demonstrate that the women's team are capable of competing for silverware. And this Galway side, like I said, when I was there mid-May, it was a very, very tense game. It was 0-0, but it was a great 0-0. It was real tension in the air. Sean, I don't know if you recall it, but we don't have to reflect on that game in particular, but do you expect something similar for this Saturday night as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it's hard to call who's kind of the expected winner and who's the underdog, because you've obviously got Galway, who are, like, the best team in this competition over the history of it, and then you've got Shels playing at home, who I think are probably hitting a bit of form in comparison to maybe other teams. So I definitely think it's going to be an exciting game, and like, I think Shels and Galway are always exciting games. Two different styles of play, but I think that adds to the excitement of the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Collie, I think Galway might be a little rattled from today, from that 3-3 draw. I know we keep reflecting on it.
I'd fear them.
Dunny had mentioned before, he didn't expect them to kind of keep going at this pace that they're at. They're clearly a very good team, though. Do you think we can have the eggs home form? Like, we're at home and everything.
I always fear a wounded team, and they'll be wounded from that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know. I really do think it's a coin toss. as to who will win the final. I hope it's Shels. But the last game was so tight, and I think a draw was a fair result. The last match, if I recall when I was talking about it. So, like, I take it this game will go to extra time if needs be, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, that we do see extra time to separate these two teams in a final. Just the dynamic of it, and I'd be interested to know Seana's thoughts on the actual All-Ireland competition itself. Are you for or again? Because I'm all for it, but I think other people are
I
a
think
bit.
my opinion would be the opposite. I think just so far as to say, like, it was obviously brought in to I think to fill the calendar, and I think it's great that we're trying to get more games for the women.
Would you like a bigger
Because
league, Sean? Is that where you prefer more games in the league, maybe, or?
not even so much in the league. Like, I think one of the biggest challenges now, and I think it's a collective challenge. Like, it's not, we can't. I hate this idea of, well, it's on clubs to get interest and get fans in the stadium. And then
Yeah.
it's on the FAI, and then, like, almost the players are blamed sometimes. Well, if the football was better, my opinion on it is I think there's a real opportunity to maybe try something different here. Like we've seen at the end of the WSL last year, they had that fives tournament. It's something a bit different. It's a bit of fun for the players. Like, I know as a player in the league, like, you're not buzzing to play Treaty, no disrespect, or a Cork for an extra 2 games a season. As much as it's nice to have games, then be dragged to a training pitch and probably put through your paces. But to have the chance to do something different, and I think, as I said, like, to try and kind of grow the attendances again, and do something a little bit different. So I just, for me, like, from the perspective of, like, the money that's put into this tournament, like, we had our women's team go up to play up the north on the evening of the Champions League final. Like, how is that benefiting the game? Because, like, I know the majority of people would have watched the final. It's not fair on the players.
Yeah.
So for me, I just think there could be something different that we could try to kind of really, I think, just inject a bit of creativity and something a bit different into the league calendar.
Yeah, what are your views on the league overall? Actually, just because we said, we drew with Sligo there the other month, and Sligo are an example of a team that are improving. I think they held that lone in the opening game of the season as well.
Yeah.
Rovers obviously got the draw today. They're improving. Do you think there's a couple of teams maybe trying to keep up with us, but then we have the Treaties and the Corks, and I saw Treaty in Talca Park earlier in the season. They weren't too bad. They were fit enough, but maybe just lacking that bit of quality. What are
Yeah.
your views on the league overall?
Yeah, like, I mean, I think that, it's obviously changed in recent years. We're seeing, like, an awful lot of younger players heading over across the water now. Like,
Yeah.
when I was playing, a lot of the girls heading over there probably would have played up until college here and maybe started working and then gone over to England maybe in their early 20s or so. But now we're seeing the likes of, Abby Lark and Leah O'Leary,
Right.
Roy
Yeah.
Ralph, they're all kind of they've all headed over quite young.
Yeah.
So there's an expectation that Madison McGuan's going to go. We're probably talking about Hallie Harcourt.
Yeah.
Now, I know I've a friend of an assistant manager over in the UK that's on to me most weeks about a couple of young players. So I think that's going to have a bit of an effect naturally on the league, because, your legends, the older players that I think have brought the quality for so long, the Karen Duggans, Kylie Murphy, we've seen that exits starting to happen. So yeah, I think for me, I don't think it's really progressed since, the early years. Like, when we started with Rahini, we were training 3 nights a week. Like, most clubs are still only training 3 nights a week.
Right. Yeah.
The access to facilities, I don't think has really improved. I think where it has improved is definitely at some clubs the standard of coaching, and the supports that players have, from nutrition just to maybe recovery care. But we're in a position now. Obviously, it's great for Shels. Our women's team play at a stadium. But say if you look at our neighbours up the road, Bows, who knows where their women's team are going to end up. I don't think that's good for the game.
Yeah, it wasn't a good
You
look
know, and
today when you tuned into LOI TV to see the camera down at the level you'd be standing at to watch go in and Rovers. I just even little things like that where the camera could be elevated to show you more of the pitch. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, 100%. Like, and this is an ongoing, I think, issue. Like over the course of the league. So I still think there's a lot more to be done. The fact that it went professional a couple of years ago, and I don't think, I personally still don't think it's professional. I just think the wrong strategy was deployed, and it's almost had a negative effect on, I think, the ones that are suffering are the players.
Yeah, no, good point. It's such a great league to watch. I mean, it's easy to say when we're one of the better teams, and I absolutely love watching the women's team. I think Collie would agree. I think this year we've gotten a bit more into it, Collie, haven't we? Following the women's league. And all.
I'm on record as saying that I went to a good few women's games as a Shels fan throughout the years, but when I was coming on this, I've made it very much a part of my weekly. Even if I don't get to the games, I'm going to watch the games, and I'm all the better for it. I think it's a great example to my daughter, who is more into GAA than she is football. But I think if she's not seeing it or seeing me watch it, when is she ever going to actually maybe click and say, I want to go to that? So that's. I think I'm all the better for watching women's sport and women's football. And then also, I think football is football anywhere. Like I have a note down, and I wanted to ask later on. It's regarding the size of the pitch has been reduced in Tolka Park again. So it's gone very narrow, but like
for Europe,
for Europe, and then also it looks like it's been taken in again. So I'll get to that in a little while. But what I'm trying to say now is that at the end of the day, no matter what size the pitch is, it's the same game for men and women. You know what I mean? And I enjoy it. I really enjoyed even watching the development league. I've started watching matches there. It's all positive, I think. From someone that wasn't watching a lot of women's football and is now watching a good lot more of it, I think it's in a healthier place because you have people like me watching it. And maybe you don't see that because you're so immersed in it. And I think your standards are so high that there is the people that, like, I'd say 10 years ago would never have going to matches now. There are those people going. It's just not regular enough, maybe. And that's where I think the league needs to be selling it to those people more. And I do think Shels do it well. Like, my season ticket includes both. I haven't had to pay into a cup game. Every time I go along, they go, the season ticket will do. So they are rewarding the fan base that's loyal as well. You know, I think that's all very positive.
Yeah, Seana, with your high standards, if you don't mind me saying, from Arsenal, is there any couple of points you could implement to improve the standards? I know we might be repeating ourselves a little bit, but if there's anything else you want to say in terms of what we could be doing, you're saying we've gone professional, but it doesn't seem to have actually done much. Is there anything you'd add?
Yeah, like I think there's sometimes this idea that we maybe like need to try and replicate the WSL, or strive to be like that. But like the reality is we're never going to be the WSL. I think we have to try and create our own model here based on, the number of players that we have playing, the facilities we have on offer. Like, we know it's a massive issue here in Ireland, facilities in general, across the country. But as I said again, with that maybe fact that like we are going to lose those players, at an earlier age, the really, really talented ones. What I would love to see is situations where we can kind of, have young players that are training full time, and focus on education. So if you have as I said, you have maybe a Hallie Harcourt that's going to go to England, right, because she's so good. But there's probably 5 or 6 young girls behind her that maybe need a bit more development. Maybe we need a bit more time. We have to focus on how do we get these players 5 days training a week? How do we get them on grass more? How do we get them into conditioning? I remember when I went over to Arsenal, like one of the first training sessions where we were all being tested, they were like, right, we're going to see how long you can do a plank. And I was just like, what? Like, I thought they were talking about like a wrestling move or something. I was like, what are these on about?
Yeah.
But like,
and you were 5 days a week there, were you as well?
Yeah,
in Arsenal?
Yes. Like our week was like Monday. So we had Monday, and then we had a double session on a Tuesday. So on a Wednesday, then it was like, it's you played a match, and if you didn't play a match, it was like fitness. And then Thursdays were double sessions, so early morning, late evening. Fridays were sessions. You had Saturday off, and then if you were like in the reserve team, you played early on a Sunday, and then you went and joined the first team then. So yeah, it was an intense week, and it was busy. So I just think we have to look at ways we can get more, time for players on grass. That's the biggest one. Like Collie, you alluded to it there. Like I think people now realise the obligation of turning up and supporting the women, and the role of the fan in helping drive the game on. And credit to, like, I always give the Shels fans credit, because I've been to Galway, I've gone to Athlone, I've gone to Cork, and people are turning up to support the women's team, which I think is fantastic. And we have a great fan base, and I know the girls really do appreciate that. But it's just, I think if we can really get the girls playing more, I think games need to be more competitive. So, we all love a 6-0 against our rivals, but the games that are going to get people turning over for in TG4, or people turning up, are the competitive ones. So,
and can the league do anything about that, Sean? Have they got the wrong strategy there? Is there anything we could be doing in that sense?
To be honest with you, I just think it's, as I said, like, if we can get players training more and in better condition, I think. And as I said, like, our net right here is quite narrow in terms of, if you're a really good player up until recently, for example, it was a very select couple of players that were going up to home base training. You were probably getting into train with the Irish team a couple of times. So we have to find better ways of increasing the competitiveness and quantity of training on a weekly basis for a wider range of players. Like, I know girls, I was over in Manchester a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to a girl that was playing for Dulwich Hamlet, and she was saying, like, she's full time there, like, and they're not, like, they would be a great club.
Wow. 5 nights or 5 days or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just finding ways that we can kind of increase the playing time for girls. And as I said, I think that then makes the league more competitive.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, it's difficult to just replicate what the WSL did. We've found that with the men's team, which we'll get on to in a minute, in terms of, Collie used to always say, with the managers, you get rid of one, there's not just another one waiting to come in.
No.
But Collie, we will touch on that in one sec, because I just want to promote the game for Saturday at 7:30. I had to read it, but yes, the season tickets will cover you to get down into the game on Saturday. It is on TG Car if you can't make it, but I do recommend you get on down. It's a later than usual kickoff. I've seen some people kind of complaining about that, because I know a lot of kids would normally go during the day. I don't know if any of you have any thoughts on that, but I'm happy it's in the evening. I think it'd be a great atmosphere.
It suits me better.
It always suits me later as well,
because
but
I can do
it during the day.
I'd love Lucy to come with me, but I don't think she will. But I can do all the family things that need to be done that usually happen at 4:00 on a Saturday. And now I'm able to go on Saturday evening, having done all those things. It is probably a more adult environment given the time. It allows people to have a few drinks and stuff like that. But look, it's a final. It's great to be there. So I'm all for the fact that it's on TG Car, and it's on. I think it's on at a time that will allow people to go.
Yeah, you okay with that, Sean? A bit later in the day, me and I was about to say you could get the pints in, but me and Collie both don't drink, so you can. I don't know, it might be good for other people.
Yeah, look, I think I think it's, for me, again, I prefer an evening kickoff. I think players actually prefer evening kickoffs as well.
All
Like,
right. Yeah.
it's the getting to play under the floodlights
Yeah. Yeah.
is always nice. Um, like, we've had really good weather. As far as I know, the weather's supposed to be good next week. It's summer holidays as well. There's I think a graph for football at the moment with the World Cup on, and as far as I know, there could potentially be some other Galway teams playing in Dublin next week. Is one or two of them not playing with Ghana? That's the only thing. I think the women uh, Galway GAA team are potentially
There's
playing
the hurling
somewhere.
Limerick.
Yeah,
On the Sunday. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, again, like, both clubs could potentially be encouraging people to pop into to Tolka Park, maybe. Like, we know an awful lot of people going to Croker or parking around Drumcondra. So can we kind of capitalise on that? But yeah, Colin, you said it's a final. It's the first final of the season, and it's two of the best teams in the country. So I'd encourage everyone to try and get down.
Yeah, that's a good sell. Everyone get down Saturday, 7:35. That is July 18th. Do I have my dates right? Yeah, July 18th. Get on down. Shels against Galway in the All-Ireland Cup final. Johnny, just before we move on, because I'm just delighted that we have such insight on the show this week for the women's team, that how important will European places be for the Shels ladies if they can achieve it this season? We see Athlone get it. I'm having an absolute blank on who Athlone are playing, but it's just kind of, you are admiring that they get to play these teams and go on away trips. How important is it for the girls if they could potentially get it?
Yeah, like, I think they're playing in Poland or somewhere like that, which is quite a decent draw, because obviously it's not as difficult to get to as other places like
Yeah,
Latvia and whatnot. Like, it's so important for two reasons. The first reason is, from coming from a club like Shels, knowing the philosophy and the standard. Like, I would say we're a very technical team. We probably play a little bit more like the European style of football. So I do think it's important to, as a team with a long history of success, that we get back there again.
yeah,
The second one is just for attracting players. Like, we're seeing now how obviously it's become a big draw for Athlone. No disrespect to anybody that lives in Athlone, but like, you obviously would be only going there for football and bingo. But like,
yeah,
the thing is that, like, especially with North Americans that maybe want to put themselves in the shop window for, you know, other European clubs, this is a real entryway for them into playing in Europe. So you have that opportunity to kind of bring in maybe a higher caliber player. It also is great to then attract other players that are playing here, to come and play for you maybe. It's also just an added incentive for players going into pre-season. Like, we obviously have a winter pre-season. You're probably coming back in January after Christmas.
yeah.
So as a player as well, having that in your head, and also just the general coverage is also, you tend to see more on RTE and whatnot as a player. So just general, I think it's in general it's great for players, but for the club, for what they've invested in the women's side and the fans, I said, that turn up week in, week out, I think it's so important for us as a club.
Yeah, well said. I must get down to Athlone town. I didn't know they had bingo. I've only ever been on the outskirts of Athlone, so thanks for the heads up.
Sean's bar is nice.
Thanks to Theo Dowd.
Sean's bar is nice.
Sean, I've actually seen a picture of that. Yeah.
Pub in Ireland. That's
Oh yeah, that's what I know. Yeah. But Theo Dowd, thank you for that question. It was good to think about, because I know, like, even with the men's team, when you get a bit of Europe, you get a bit of taste of it. We're just going to expect this now every summer. This is our third summer in a row with a bit of Europe for a long, long time. So I will actually just stay with the men, if you don't mind. Just, Collie, I'll divert this over to you, because all the gossip about the new manager. We had David Healy the other day mentioned, and now John Russell. I had Sean Russell. I know I'm going to get confused if that happens all the time. But John Russell has been at Sligo for 4 years. Not done much with Sligo. I don't know what kind of resources Sligo have. Do you want to talk about him? Do you want to talk about Healy? Do you want to talk about any other options in terms of new management? Because I assume it'll be announced soon, maybe before Europe, when we find out this week.
Okay, I know nothing other than the murmurs I'm hearing myself.
Let's go with the murmurs. Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we'll find out this week who the new Shels manager is. I thought it was going to be David Healy the way we were talking. Now we're talking about it being John Russell.
You're a Healy fan then, over John,
if I was
maybe?
To pick
out
of the two, I would prefer David Healy. He has international experience. He has played at a very high level in England. I think when we got Damien Duff in, it was like off the Richter scale for a type of pedigree of manager that we had in the League of Ireland or any club in Ireland has ever had.
You can't top
it. But I think the next best thing in terms of stature was the likes of Joey O'Brien, who was his right-hand man, and I think that's the level we're at. I think David Healy brings that sort of level with him, experience. He has European pedigree. Yes, we played very well and beat them quite well and quite comfortably in the second leg of the second round of matches against them last year. But in the first match, they gave us an awful scare in Tolka. When talking about Linfield, he had done his homework. He has done quite well with Linfield on a budget that isn't what it used to be for them, with the likes of Larne having much more now and stuff like that. And then I look at John Russell and I go, he has done a great job at Sligo from what I looking from the outside, but Sligo haven't really kicked on.
Bottom of the table.
Wait, that's this season, but in general terms, they haven't really kicked on. I think they're regressing, if anything. And I just don't think John Russell is the guy I want to see coming in at this particular moment in time. But from what I hear and from what I'm listening to, I think that could be our new manager. And if it is, I will get 100% behind him as I do every manager. I will hope that he proves me wrong. And I will gladly eat humble pie, as I said before, about many a player. But I thought we were trying to take steps forward here. And this seems like a sideways move at best, if John Russell is the man.
Yeah. Seana, have you ever been in this kind of position, or would you have a preference in this instance? Just we're getting not a manager out of left field, but is it just important that we get someone in who's a full-time manager who knows the league? Or, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on this potential appointment of John Russell? Or would you like to see David Healy?
Yeah, I actually am not opposed to either. I agree fully there with Collie in terms of David Healy obviously comes with an awful lot of experience. Like, you know, I seen the reaction from both sets of fans, Shels and at Linfield, on that whole situation. And
was it over the top?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a little bit crazy. You know, like at the end of the day, football's a business. Collie was talking there about like he's obviously at a club like that, like, you know, the budget's not there. He's kind of stretched. You know, as a manager, he wants to push on himself and try to test himself. And you know, I mean, again, just rumours here and that potentially the negotiations or talks broke down. And from the perspective of John Russell, like, I actually think Sligo probably would have been in a hell of a lot of a worse place without John Russell.
Oh yeah,
I think from what I know of players, I think he's very well regarded around the league. Like, you know, he's got a lot of players to go out there on loan. And you know, from people around Sligo, like talking to someone earlier, I don't think people are aware of how much he actually is doing behind the scenes at Sligo. And I'm not kind of making excuses for him, but what he's doing definitely goes well beyond his remit there as a manager. And I think that, like, you know, he always seems calm. He's young, he knows the league. So like, I err on the side of excitement more so than worry. The only thing I'd say is that, like, I just hope that the club aren't trying to, like, jump in to find someone before Europe.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, is that, like, like, I know from their perspective, there's obviously, like, they're thinking about the financial side of it in terms of if you get through and whatnot, and trying to steady the ship, especially around this time of year with transfers as well. Nobody's going to sign for you if they're not sure who the manager is, because we all know, like, a manager comes in, you might not take to you, and that's you out the door again. But, like, I know fans had their thoughts on players like Ellis Chapman, but for me personally, like, I thought he was brilliant at Sligo. I look at other players that John Russell has got, like, well beyond their ceiling out of, and I just think that, like, for me, I'd err on the side of excitement if we have people like John Russell or David Healy. I'd much prefer that rather than the old school merry-go-round of other managers.
I think what's interesting about John Russell is, at the moment, Sligo have become a selling club. He will not be in that position if he comes to Shels. He will be a manager that's at a buying club, and that could bring a very different dynamic to him being in charge that we don't get to see at the moment with him. That's one thing I'm just thinking of as you speak there, Seana.
Yeah, and, like, look, even with the young players, like the likes of Elding and stuff, that and you can say maybe he was forced a little bit into playing Elding quite young, and even McGinty and whatnot. But, like, I agree with you, and I know that John has spoke about that in the past as well, about, like, his frustration at players constantly just leaving. But unfortunately, that's the position Sligo are in. And as I said, I think, considering the circumstances there, I think he's done a very good job. And they would be in a hell of a lot of a worse position if he hasn't been there the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, well said. And maybe if he came along, one player I'm thinking of is Jad Hakiki. I'd love to see him back at Shels. If this is all hypothetical now, but another hypothetical for you, Collie, is from Red James writes in, how much of a risk would John Russell be? But follows on with, will the new manager have to be 100% behind? The Jamestown plan. That's really jumping ahead.
That last bit is jumping ahead. But the question of risk, the risk was already taken. When I don't want to harper on about it.
No, but he's plugging a hole.
I've told you that I don't think it was the right time to get rid of Joey. I think we should have stuck it out, waited till after Europe. So they've already in much ways played their hand, and they have the risk now. So but as Seana said, I hope they're not panicking now, because Andy was talking about last week, saying give it time, get the right person. And as much as I was like, this is not the right time to have no manager going into Europe, I am coming around to Andy's way of thinking that if we are to have done what we have done, and we are where we are, to use that horrible phrase, we can question afterwards as to why they chose to do the decisions they did with regard getting rid of Joey. And at the time, we can question all that after. But for now, make sure whoever it is coming in, be it David Healy, John Russell, or Cleberson, whoever it may be, nonsense talk, whoever it may be, just get it right. And as much as I was going to Andy last week, we can't wait that long. I'm now thinking it's better to wait and give it a little bit longer to make sure we do have the right man in place, or woman, for that matter. But, like, it's the risk is already there. The horse is bolted there. Like, why we find ourselves in this position 2 weeks out from Europe and a week out from an FAI Cup match. I just thought it's all wrong, the timing, and now I am beginning to question the decisions that were made before. But look, whoever it is comes in, I'll be behind them, and we don't know who it is. We're still talking hypothetically, so it won't be Paul McShane anyway. He's got a job today somewhere, apparently.
Oh, has he? Okay, right.
Over in England.
Scratch him off. Okay. Well, look, Seana, do you think that they can wait till after Europe to get this sorted? Like, just for saying, Lorcan is not full time. I think we were talking last week, he maybe has another job, but
Yeah.
I think we'd be okay with these Linfield or Calju, whoever we get. Maybe we can just sort of another risk, but all hypothetical, but like just put it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in time, based on kind of the way the situation's panned out now, I think it's damage limitation firstly, and then the second one is like the long term strategy. We're not going to go on and win a European competition. It's obviously nice to get through a few rounds, but like should it be a case of like you can't have your cake and eat it, right? It would obviously be great if Lorcan can take the team on a run. That would be super nice. But if I was put in a position to choose between one or the other, I would prefer for the focus to be on securing a manager that is going to come in and embed their philosophy, and there's full kind of confidence there. I think as a club, I would hate for us to go like other clubs where it's almost become like a manager carousel, or one of these revolving doors of managers. And we've seen how that has affected, clubs not too far away from us in recent years as well. So yeah, I just think like, although it's not ideal, it's just about kind of not kind of feeling the pressure to rush into anything. If they think John Russell is the right person for the job, as Collie said there, I think it's just very, very important as a fan base we get behind them, the management team, and just and Shels people do that. That's why I love the club. So yeah, like it's not an ideal situation, but how can we make?
Does embedding your philosophy also mean bringing your own people in, or working with the people that's already there, or do you have an opinion on that yet?
Yeah, like I mean, I personally think it'd be important for whoever comes in to bring in their own people. That might be a case of sticking with some of the people that are there, or it might be a case of going, "No, do you know what? I want a fresh start." But my opinion on it is, if you want a manager to succeed, within financial constraints, you give them everything they need to do that. Like unless whoever it is saying, I need to fly in somebody from America and they've got to fly home on a Wednesday or whatnot. Like the majority of coaches and whatnot, are around the country, assistant managers and whatnot. So yeah, for me, like I have a lot of respect for the likes of Davey, Paul Skinner, all the lads there. They're great. They're really, really great. But yeah, for whatever manager coming in, I do think it's important that it's a clean slate. Like, there is a bit of a Damien Duff hangover. That, if we do want to kind of step into this new era, like Neil Doyle spoke about it when he spoke to the fans after, Duff's exit, that we're in a new era now. We can't keep kind of looking back at the past. So maybe it is an opportunity now to clean that slate and really, just focus on what is to be.
I love how you always see opportunity. It's great. It's a great way to think. I'd love to be more like that myself.
Yeah, look, I am like this until about 8:30 or 9:00 on a Friday evening, and then I'm usually shouting blasphemy at the television.
Yeah, aren't we all? Well, look, lads, let's see what happens this week. Possibly unlikely to have a new coach in before Friday, because this Friday we have Kerry in the Cup. Collie, you're making the trip down, aren't you?
I am.
Are you heading
I'm
down
the driver.
Yeah, you're the driver. Like myself,
Yeah.
I'm driving a car too.
I was going to say, can I just say, but that's like, to me, that's another name that I think nobody's brought up, that I'm like,
Colin Healy.
Yeah, like,
yeah, I was just about to say him. Yeah,
like that's. I'm shocked his name hasn't come up.
It's an interesting one. I was listening to a League of Ireland pod last week, and they were both implying, not Kerry fans, but that they're a little disappointed with Kerry, given they've had a bit of investment, and I think they had a bit of a cup run last year. So maybe that's why Colin Healy wasn't picked for this argument yet. He could still
when Healy went into the text message or into the WhatsApp group. That's the Colin Healy. I was thinking Colin Healy, not David Healy. And then someone said David Healy to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we're going down that path." But like, that's it. It was initially Colin Healy was the one. When someone just put in, we might be getting Healy.
Yeah, maybe he's not interested in Dublin as well. I mean, he's a Cork man, isn't he? As far as I'm aware, he played for them, so he could be from around that area. But look, we have to focus on our game, and I don't think Colin Healy will be managing Shels that night. He'll be managing Kerry. But for Shels, Collie, I'll put it to you. Do you think we should we'll probably end up playing a couple of the young lads again. Maybe some of the guys we saw in the Celtic game, the Joey Woona, or I don't know if James Bailey. I think he's the guy who won the penalty.
Lorcan seems courageous enough to put young lads in. But I'm not going to do a Alan Hansen on it and say you'll never win anything with young lads. But I think whatever team we play, it has to be the full team. Give Kerry every bit of respect they're due. They got to the semi last year, so they can pull off a shock. They're on their pitch, their Astro.
We have a European game 6 days later,
So I wouldn't be tinkering too many like we did against Bonnigy last year, or not Bonnigy last year, Fairview. But I worry that if we end up 5th in the league come the end of the year, this is our best chance. So I say play our full strength team against every team, no matter who they are, what league they're in. We got to get through the rounds and get to the final, and hopefully the final works out for us that if we don't win it, we can still qualify for Europe. And that's how I'd be thinking of that,
Yeah, for sure. Sean, are you an FAI Cup fan? I know you weren't as keen on the All Ireland Cup for the girls, but do you like the FAI Cup?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously the occasion of getting to a final and the fanfare around it is incredible. And as Collie said there, obviously that might be our route to Europe for next year. But I don't think we have the luxury of playing young players. Like, our form has been not great. In recent weeks, there's for the course of the season, there's been so much change with the starting 11. I just don't think we're in a position right now where we can afford to be taking a few out to give younger lads a run. I think right now it's about getting results, and it's about kind of developing form within your core team. So I think Collie's 100% on the money there, and saying that it's not just about giving Kerry respect, but it's also about going, hang on a second, we're not performing that well as a core team to actually pull some of you out. I think we have to just go with this at full strength, and who knows, hopefully, fingers crossed, we could be a couple of goals up, and you can put the young lads on, but we're not afforded that luxury right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
There's a few young lads I think should be featuring more anyway. That's
like Woona.
Well, maybe Woona. I really like your man Bailey. I think he's been good when I've watched him.
Roach, of course.
Yeah, James. I just think they could feature more in the squad. Maybe not start, but we could have seen them more come off the bench throughout the season so far. That hasn't happened. And I'm not opposed to one of them being selected against Kerry, but I just think for this match, it has to be, I see our producer putting in there to the chat box, it's 26 years. I remember being singing at Pats fans when it was at 25 years for them and really rubbing it in. And I didn't think we'd be going this long, even in Division 1. We've had 2 cup finals that we've lost. I need an L Cup win, you know what I mean? That's how I feel.
I missed that Pats chant. How long did they go in the end? Look, we won't talk about it. It was years they went without winning the cup. But,
Pats do not get any time on this podcast. Sorry.
Yeah, but we can cut that out, right? But look, Kerry away on Friday. This could be our furthest cup trip of the whole season if we end up getting bloody Linfield again. I'm going to stop saying that. But this Friday, planes, trains and automobiles all the way down to Kerry. But Seana, since we have you, and before we let you go, I just want to ask about this, because I understand some of the Shels jerseys were designed by yourself, the 2025 and 2026 jerseys, right?
Yeah, so I suppose
myself, give us the process there.
yeah. I'm not certainly going to say it was just me, but Brian McGovern reached out to myself and Simon Bastable, who last year was kind of all about us kind of stepping into the partnership with O'Neill's, and obviously just giving the club our kind of creative direction on what they could do to kind of I think, I'm not going to say improve, but own the process a bit more. We're seeing a lot of clubs across Europe now are having a more concerted effort in the jersey design, their merchandise design. So myself and Simon kind of stepped into that last year. We've last year was all about learning kind of what we could do at O'Neill's. So I suppose the fruits of our labour really came out in that third jersey. Just because we came to the table late last year with O'Neill's in terms of, you know, what we could choose from a material perspective, and, you know, crests and whatnot. But we're currently in the process of working on the jerseys for next season.
Oh, great.
We've done an awful lot of research. You know, for us, it's all about leveraging fans, putting fans at the centre of this. So there's been a lot of conversations with fans, people about the club, and dipping into the history and the strong ties that the club have with fans, and how important the fan base have been and are to Shelbourne Football Club. So yeah, we've a few kind of surprises coming for next season, and we brought also another designer in, David Pakenham, who's a big Shels fan, but also an incredible designer. So he done the merch for the Celtic game. He's got the European T-shirt design coming out next week, I think, or the week after.
Apparently, there's a few
And like
floating around the ground
yeah,
yesterday.
his work is just incredible. But like, you know, I suppose, you know, I can't thank the board enough for kind of giving myself, David and Simon, the kind of freedom to step into this. And, you know, I'd urge any fan out there who kind of, you know, wants to give us feedback, or you know, talk to us about things they feel it's important that we consider. You know, we're always, our DMs are always open on Instagram. I'm unfortunately banned from Twitter, so it'll either be Instagram or email.
Who needs Twitter? I've never been on it. Was there another jersey? Sorry, I'm getting this only before we started there, guys. We were saying about the women in sport jersey as well. Were you helping with that process? Was that last season or?
No. So we're actually just in the midst of that. So
Oh, sorry. Okay.
yeah. So I launched a jersey. So this all came about because I was doing some research as part of a course, and I came across just kind of like stats on, like, from the age of 5, girls start to doubt their potential. And like, you know, even just little things like, parents tend to Google things like, you know, has my son got a high IQ? You know, and should I send my son to private school in comparison to their daughters? So I kind of started out doing some research on that, and then it kind of led me to just kind of exploring our own landscape here in Dublin, and like seeing the lack of female or you know, women representation around the city in terms of statues and commemorative plaques, and just signals about the amazing achievements of women, you know, across, not just in Dublin but across Ireland, and the impact that women have had on Irish society. So approached the National Women's Council for a good couple of years now. I've been talking to Foudies in the UK, the brand that are a women-led, women-focused football brand. And it was a great opportunity for it to do this project. So the aim is to use the jersey sales to gain public support to secure a commemorative plaque at Bluebell. That was the site of the first ever women's international match in Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
all the proceeds will go to the National Women's Council for them to do all the kind of, I suppose, great work they do in the name of women across Ireland, not just you know, for Irish women, but from immigrant women, for anyone that identifies as a woman. Their work is integral. So we had a release before the Irish Netherlands game, and we sold out within 2 hours. So we decided we'd do a second run, which we're looking now at probably August time, with just delivery time frames and whatnot. So, and we'll have some other kind of extras, t-shirts and pins as well. But all proceeds are going to the National Women's Council, and the jersey kind of in itself tells a story. So we use the St. Bridget's cross pattern. You know, we have Manana Aaron in there, but the whole idea is to kind of, you know, to use it as an opportunity to kind of trigger conversation, whether it's a dad showing his daughter, whether it's a friend showing a friend, but just to have that conversation about the importance of women in Irish society and create that connection to the past.
Yeah, absolutely. That's excellent. And you said, sorry, the next match in August. Is that what you said? Is there a game? Is there a match then as well?
No,
International game?
it's just like the first we had never anticipated that we'd be doing a second drop. We had only planned to do
Oh
the
yeah.
first one, but we're going
Okay.
to do one more. Again, all proceeds going to the National Women's Council, but just with the delivery time frames, we'll now be looking at August.
And are the cuts of the jerseys for men and women? Great.
Yeah, so this is was one of the reasons why I wanted to work with Foudies, is because they actually don't specify men or women's fit. It's kind of box fit or I think it's boxed or fitted they call them. So we just went for the standard box fit, which again, like is generally apparently what they said most people go for in a jersey fit.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for that, John. That's a great insight, and maybe we can have you on again later in the year to hear even more about that, how you get on in August or whatever, or whenever it may be. Apologies. Brilliant. Okay, look, guys, we're just over the hour mark there, so I think we'll wrap it up. Like we've been kind of touching on, Linfield play that Calju team on Thursday. The Estonian team only got a 1-0 win last week, so let's see how that goes before we know who we are playing the following week at home in Talca. Girls, massive game on Saturday, the All-Ireland Cup, as we mentioned. Get on down if you can. The season ticket will cover it to get you in, so please do get on down. It's going to be a great Saturday evening. And the lads have Kerry on Friday, as we touched on as well in the FAI Cup. Collie, Seana, if there's nothing else, we can wrap it up there.
No, I'm good. That was great. Really enjoyed talking to you, Seana.
Thanks, Collie.
Yeah, thanks so much for having
me on.
Thanks, Emil, Seana. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon, and we'll see you around Talca Park. All right?
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Emil. Cheers, guys.